What are we doing today, sir?
We are going to help with your incredibly boring engine build of Clark's engine, which isn't your fault. You actually did a good job. But since it's the only thing in this episode, I thought we'd try to liven up the episode a little bit. I'll be picking on you.
Oh, thanks for the warning.
You're welcome. Here to help any way I can. You believe that, don't you? I'm here to help you any way I can.
What was it, that thing you taught me early on? You're a liar and a fat mouth?
Mm-hmm. You don't believe it. You
Oh,
don't
I do
believe I'm
believe
here
it.
to help you in any way I can.
I don't believe that.
All right.
Oh, give me a home where the hills follow wrong, where the deer and the antelope play.
The worst parts of the Bible have come to fruition.
I think Mark is crazy.
And the skies are not cloudy all day.
Just want to paint cars. Royal just taking another one for the team.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Hey everybody, Mark Warman here with Graveyard Carz, along with
Cousin Dougie.
Cousin Dougie. Cousin Dougie, thank you for joining me up here.
Well, you're welcome, Mark.
In last week's episode, Cousin Dougie got the engine completely torn down for our 1970 Dodge Charger. This is the burned car, the car that got caught in those California fires, and had it disassembled, sent it out, got the engine back, and in this episode, he will be reassembling that engine, showing you the intimate details of building out a 440.
That is correct.
That is correct.
And I know what engine we're talking about. I just want to know why I'm here.
The reason you're here is due to recent events in seasons past that I've noticed sitting at home. I felt like every once in a while, that's nothing personal, it happens to me too, our fans could use a wee bit of a roadmap. And so I thought I would have you help explain or expound, if I can use that word. Does that upset you?
No.
Expound on what's happening with the engine. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You all right with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Great. And so with that, I think it's time to raise the curtains, dim the lights. This is it. We'll hit new heights. I know what heights we'll hit.
On with the show?
This is it.
This is it. So I've got all the decks cleaned. I'm going to set on a head gasket. Okay.
So what are you doing right now?
So right now I'm installing the head on the top of the engine. I've got the head gasket in place, and I'm searching for the dowel pins that I'm going to drop the heads over to align the head.
That'll locate that head.
Uh-huh.
That very good.
Okay. Got the passenger head in place, got an exhaust manifold gasket on. So after I set the head bolts on, I'm going to set these head bolts in.
Oh, hang on. Stop the film. Just a quick question for you. You say, and this might be helpful to the audience at home, that you like to put the head bolts on and then put the head bolts on. And I'm wondering if you meant you like to set the heads on there and then put the head bolts in.
That sounds more logical.
Sounds okay.
Yeah.
I've been under a lot of pressure myself while on set, and I misspeak a lot. I am very friendly with you and try to help you through that. Tony would berate me, call me on a Sunday and say, you know that their car, they didn't do that there. You must know that there. I do know that there, but I was busy.
Yeah, I do call you up when something's wrong, and now I'm calling you to tell you something else is wrong. This season, you said we closed up. We're not closed. We're open. We're in business. We're open every day. Yeah, I did buy another house in California, but that doesn't mean we're closed. Get your facts straight, Mark. We're open every day. We're taking orders. people calling thinking that we're out of business, thinking that they have to order parts at the last minute. Mark, you must be getting senile in your old age. Have that looked into.
We get distracted, don't we?
Yes, we do.
There's 17 head bolts per side. There's a long one for the middle of the head, short ones for the side and the inside the head, and they also have the H for the Highland. Here's my long Highland bolts that go in the center of the head under the rocker shaft. These are the long bolts. Got 5 of those to go in. 3, 4. There we go. Get my short bolts for the outside. 1. So here is a spark plug heat shield. This bolts underneath the head bolts between the 6 and 8 cylinders, and it protects the wires from the heat of the exhaust manifold, which runs right down between this heat shield. So I have to bolt this on with the head bolts on the head, torque it down, and then it gets painted with everything else on the engine.
Now see, I would like to say that that was a lucid, well thought out explanation, and I'm very proud of you. That's exactly what we're looking for when educating our audience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have 4 short bolts that go down in here in the head. I've got all 17 bolts in place. Now I'm going to snug them down so the head doesn't fall off with a little tiny 1/4-inch tool here.
Now, Doug, I have a question for you. Inquiring minds want to know. When they see you run that little 1/4-inch drive impact down there and you give it the tap tap, all right, we know we have to torque the head, so we're certainly going to tighten them down with that. But what kind of torque do you believe that little gun puts when it goes tap tap?
2 foot-pounds.
15.
15?
15,
That
that's
little
right.
1/4-inch impact gun?
Yeah, 15 pound-feet of torque.
Pound-feet, why'd you say that? It's foot-pounds.
Well, that's what I always thought growing up. I bet a lot of you old-timers out there used to call it foot-pounds of torque too. But recently I found out it's pound-feet of torque. But we can still call it foot-pounds of torque if you're okay with that.
Thank you, I'm okay
Point
with that.
is, 15 pounds is still okay, folks, because his lowest torque setting starts at 45.
Okay, so I've got this one tacked in place before I torque it. So now I'm going to roll it over and put the driver's side head on. Here's my driver's side head gasket. I'm going to set it on the dowel pins. These little dowel pins are really, really nice. So there's a dowel pin, aligns the head gasket. The rear dowel pin holds it in place, and it also holds the head in place when you set the head on. I'm going to set this one all in one piece, head bolts and all.
On one of the cylinder heads, you put the bolts in the head after you put the head on, and the other one, you put the bolts and the head all together at the same time. What's the decision-making process there?
Well, there is none. If the head bolts are already in, I'm just going to put it on there. The other one, I want to show them putting all the head bolts in.
So you just felt like putting them on that way?
Yeah, I thought it'd be easier.
When did you feel like taking the rocker assembly off so you could get to the bolts?
Well, afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and set up to torque the passenger side head bolts. So since I have 17 head bolts to torque here, I have to have an assistant.
By the way, I'm sorry I could not be there for the head torquing sequence or any of the engine building, but it looked like you replaced me with a new assistant. I'm just wondering, is that new assistant, did he berate you, put you down, talk back to you? Very quiet and peaceful?
Yep.
That's very
Just
good.
the way I like it.
Just the way you like it. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't be there for that.
Okay.
Sounds like you have a new relationship.
We'll have an instruction sheet. Works well for me. So we have to torque these in 2 stages. We're going to start off with 45 pounds, and then we're going to go to 75 pounds. We start in the middle with number 1. Bring it down till it clicks. Then I go to number 2. Bring it down until it clicks. I'm going for 3, and it's way down here in this hole, so it's going to be a little difficult.
So I'm going to save everybody a lot of time right now and a lot of clicking and clacking. And just know that he got the cylinder head bolts torqued down on one head, and it came out perfect. Preset them to 45 pounds. But I don't see the reason to hear every one of the head bolts getting clicked down.
Is there something wrong with showing them every head bolt that I torqued down?
No, that's fine. The film guys did their job, you did your job. It's the editors that wanted to make it into a 3-part miniseries.
Okay, there's the first torque sequence. Now I raise it up to 75, lock it down, and I do it again. So 1's in the middle.
See what I mean? I can't take that clicking, the constant clicking. It drives me crazy. I don't want to hear the clicking.
Why?
Because I have misophonia, okay? I had a dead dad, a tumor in my foot, Osgood slaughter, colorblind as a bat, 8 crayons of misophonia. Does that make you happy? Does that excite you?
No, I don't. I don't know what misophonia means. Why don't you tell that to your shrink?
Okay, so we got the passenger side head torqued down. Now I'm going to roll it over and do the driver's side.
Coming up, while Dougie installs the rocker assembly on the 440, Mark brainstorms how to save his show from Dougie's monotony.
We could sell hot dogs.
Mark detours from Dougie's engine build to talk about hood reinforcements.
Rotten to the core.
But will his attention snap back to Dougie's build when he catches his cousin making a grave mistake?
Does anything seem wrong about this scene?
Find out when Graveyard Carz returns.
Okay, so I got the heads on, got all 34 bolts torqued down 3 times. I don't know what that is, 132, I don't know, I lost count. I wasn't good at math. So anyway, heads are on, torqued down.
Now, I don't get your math on this one. You torque them once at 45 pounds, you torque them again at 70 pounds, is that the full?
Yeah.
That means you torque each head down twice. That's not 3 times all the way around, that's only 2 times all the way around.
Sometimes I go 3 or 4 times all the way around. Make sure I didn't miss one.
Okay, so what I'm doing now is dropping in the lifters into the lifter bores. They're gonna sit down on top of the camshaft. You wanna give them a little twist as you slide them down in there. We have 16 of these to put in here. I've already pre-oiled these things.
What Doug's talking about pre-lubing, and this is again just a little assistance, because not everybody knows. He's talking about oil priming the lifters. Can you explain what that is, how that works?
So what I do is I soak the lifters overnight in oil so that oil gets into the inside of the lifters so that they're pumped up when they're installed in the engine.
It's a great explanation. Do you ever do it manually to see if they will fill up? Or just letting them set in there overnight seems to work?
Letting them sit overnight seems to work.
Lifter bores are really tight because they hold oil pressure to stay pumped up. All right, we got all 16 lifters in there. Now I'll drop in the push rods. These Mopar push rods have ball. So the ball will set in the top of the lifter. And then the ball on top will set in the socket in the rocker. We're gonna put a push rod in each lifter.
Okay, so after I have the lifters installed, I'm going to go ahead and install all the push rods. And at the risk of upsetting Mark's misophonia, I'm going to do some narration.
That's not what misophonia is. Misophonia is repetitive noises that drive people crazy. Like your voice makes you want to drive into oncoming traffic. That's misophonia.
Oh, I'm going to keep talking.
Got all 16 push rods in place. Now I'll put a rocker shaft over the top of the push rods and valve stems. So these things actually have an orientation. There's an oil passageway in the side of this rocker shaft that actually angles towards the outside of the engine. So I've actually marked these so that I have the correct rocker assembly on the correct head for the oiling. Now it's a little tricky to get all these things in place. You gotta take it down real evenly. Make sure all your push rods are going in the sockets in the rockers.
There it is, that noise again. That's the misophonia.
Mark,
I got the misophonia.
Mark, there's something wrong with you.
Misophonia.
Okay, I got this all in place. All my push rods are in place in the rockers and in the lifters. So I'll put the driver's side on.
Hey editors, I love this. I think this reminds me so much of the old baseball films where they just speed it up really fast and it looks like the guys are walking all still. Just do that throughout the whole episode. I'm sure my audience would be thrilled with it. It's great.
You build it, they will come.
Yeah, never thought of that.
We could sell hot dogs.
Oh, because of the stadium and the hot
Yeah.
dog. Yeah. I thought I would throw a palate cleanser in here. This is the saving of a 1968 Dodge Super Bee power bulge hood. And you're welcome. You're welcome. This is a chance to sit down and have some peanuts and hot dogs. So this is the same kind of a hood that you see on a 69 Coronet Super Bee that didn't have the N96 air grabber. Same hood, the only difference is in 68, they don't use a molding up here at the leading edge. 69, they did add a molding. Beautiful hood, right? This is not bad. We had it stripped, came out nice. There's no rust on it. You comb this thing from stem to stern, there is no rust, absolutely zero. And actually not very many dents. Overall, this is a really nice hood. Well, there's a problem with this hood. The reinforcement is now removed from this hood. We've already done this previously because while it had a beautiful outer skin on it, the inner structure, this, absolutely rotten to the core. So what we have to do is dissect a skin off of the reinforcement. So I'm just showing you some of the steps we take to save original parts. This isn't reproduced. So you come across the best one you can, and sometimes it takes 2 hoods, 3 hoods, it could take 4 hoods to make one good hood. If you look at this is the reinforcement off of that hood. So like I was showing you, see how ate up this is with rust? You can actually see that the rats were packing stuff in there, this material.
Rats. That's funny.
Yeah, rats. You can see it literally has nothing to it. This is all rotted out. You get over to this side and you look, you have holes right through the inner structure. Completely rotted out. Right through here, salt and pepper, baby, salt and pepper. You go over here and you take a look through it, you can see that there is pinholes everywhere on it. At the back, you've got rust holes back here and all along here. So this is completely a rotted out unit. There are sections of it that are good, but for the most part, the leading edge, that big rust. So this is no longer any good to us other than little pieces. So when you have one like this, what we had to do was we had to find a good inner structure. And to find a good inner structure, you gotta go to another hood. That's this hood. So here is our good inner structure that we dissected that skin off of the top of it. Beautiful through here where it was rusty on the other one. This is really solid. We do have a small section here that we're gonna have to put in once the skin is married to the reinforcement because it was rusty right through there.
Well, that's all well and good, Mark, but when can we get back to my engine build?
But overall, when you look at it, just a really nice, solid inner structure. So what they're going to do is take this inner structure and they're gonna put some different sealers on the outside of this between the ribs. They're gonna slide this right into that original skin that we told you they don't make. And then they'll come along here and they'll spot weld it into place all the way around, just like the factory did. That will give you basically 2 hoods made into one, plus a little piece here at the front. But this is what the good inner structure looks like that's gonna be going into our good hood skin. The only other part that unfortunately had to be lost in time was we had to use a donor flat hood, but nobody really collects them. They don't have much value because nobody's fixing a 68 or 69 Coronet flat hood car. But yeah, unfortunately, sometimes you just have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but the most important thing is preserving an original 1968 Dodge Super Bee. We did that with this reinforcement and that original hood skin. So now that you know what we're gonna do, I'm gonna cut Shane loose and he will marry the 2 units together and we'll see what it looks like.
Okay, great. Is it my turn yet?
Are we there yet? You're like a kid. You're like a kid on the playground waiting for his turn at the merry-go-round. It's endearing to some people.
All right, Josh, ready?
Okay, so we got our lifters, push rods, and rockers in place. Rockers are torqued down. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the intake manifold on. This is our intake manifold gasket. They call it a pie tin or a pie pan. Big block Chryslers do not have a full manifold, so they use this tin plate to drop down in there as an intake manifold gasket and a valley pan cover. What we like to do is we like to put a little dab of sealer in each corner and across the end rails to prevent any oil leaks.
Now see, that is exactly what I expect. That was very good, well thought out, really great job. It's nice to have you back.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I got this. I got this.
Yeah, you got this. Like the guy at Taco Time every day that we go in there and he says, I asked for ketchup and I asked for hot sauce and I asked for a packet of salt. I got you, man. I got you, man. He don't got me. You get all the way in the other side of the hill and you open up your bag and it's not even the food that you ordered. And there certainly aren't any condiments to go on it. So don't have me. I don't like it.
Oh. Well, I'm not him.
No, you're not.
I got you. So this valley pan gasket has two metal rails that lay across the end to hold the ends down. I like to make real sure that the pan gasket is down in place so the bolts will go through from the intake manifold. One thing I find kind of interesting is that it takes 6 little bolts that hold the end rails in place. One of them has a smaller washer on it, and it's to hold this wire separator in place over here on the driver's side in the front. So I use the one that has a smaller washer on it over here to hold this wire separator in place.
This is great. I love this guy. This is the guy I want. How can I get this guy all the time? This guy's great.
I got this. Here's my intake manifold. Okay, all ready to go. Set it right down here on the valley pan gasket. Just like that. Okay. All right. Takes 8 bolts to hold the intake down. Very nice. I got that pan lined up. The bolts are all going in really nice.
Does anything seem wrong about this scene when you watch it? At all?
Other than you interrupting me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I will reserve comment until you're finished then.
Thank you.
So we can tighten this in a crisscross pattern, again like we did the heads, inside to outside.
Okay, stop it right there. This is great. This is what I was referring to earlier when I asked you if something seems strange to you or wrong about it, and you said, no, just me interrupting you, right? Well, I'm interrupting you again to bring you a special message. Did you notice that you did not put any sealer between the intake manifold and the pan gasket?
I sealed that.
No. You seal between the pan and the heads and the block. You did not seal between the intake manifold.
No, I got that.
You didn't got that.
Sure I did. I got that.
Okay. Want to know the beautiful thing? I got proof that you didn't. Indisputable to show that you're insane. I'm getting Aaron. Go get Aaron right now. I want him down here. I want to go over this, have him see who's crazy.
After the break, before Dougie gets to the timing on this 440, Mark drags his producer downstairs to settle a dispute between him and his cousin, his very busy producer. Has the 440 been compromised? Will Aaron be allowed to return to his real job? And can Mark endure any more of this engine build?
Misophonia.
There's something wrong with you, Mark.
Find out when Graveyard Carz returns.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are here now with,
Aaron Smith,
he is one of our editors
Well,
at the show.
online editor, colorist, narrator, executive producer, co-creator, you know, more than, I mean,
Nobody asked for your resume. What I did ask you, though, was to look at if there were any other angles of the intake manifold being set down on the engine for our burn 1970 Charger. Now, I alleged when I watched the footage there was no evidence of a sealer put on between the intake manifold and the gasket. So I confronted Doug about that, and he said,
I did put sealer on it.
no, you didn't put sealer on
I
it.
didn't?
Well, that's why he's here. Aaron, what are your findings?
I did have an opportunity to review the footage in question.
Reviewed the footage in question.
So I saw the whole thing unedited. And I even switched to other angles to make sure there wasn't something that was missed, and to make sure that maybe obscured there wasn't any sort of sealant on the bottom of the.
Can we get to it?
Yeah, the bottom line is no. There was no sealant.
No sealant.
No sealant.
No sealant.
Well, can I see the footage?
You don't need to. Aaron's never told a lie in his entire life.
Well, it's not exactly true, but as a general principle, I don't lie.
Well, we're done with you if you
Right.
can.
But
No.
I mean, I can say that.
No, you're
it's
fine.
possible that Doug could have, put it on afterwards.
Thank you, Aaron.
Just saying.
Come on in.
Yeah?
Now that we have that cleared up, easy mistake, anybody could make it. Why don't we get back to putting the engine together?
Shouldn't I finish the sealer first?
The sealer was done a month ago.
So now what?
Now I'm going to do a timing cover. It's got some dowel pins that help locate it in place. Dowel pin on both sides fit through these holes in the timing cover here and here. So that is really helpful in holding this in place so you can put all 8 bolts in. Here's what these bolts look like. This is one of the 4 lower timing cover bolts. Here is one of the 4 upper timing cover bolts. So these also have a number 23 on the head, kind of a short little bolt also. The 4 lower bolts are bigger in diameter than the 4 upper bolts, so we're putting the bigger ones down here.
Okay, so how was that? I did everything right. I tightened all the head bolts. Mark?
Yep, head bolts. Do that.
Head bolts?
Do that. I need to talk to her now.
Okay, got a timing cover installed. We can put a damper or a balancer on here. So here's our vibration damper. So it has a mark right here that lines up with the timing marks on the cover. 0 degrees, 10 degrees before, 10 degrees after. So this is a keyed damper. It has a keyway slot. There's a key in the crankshaft. So to put the damper on, run it back and forth, and there's the key slot. It just found its way onto the keyway. We're on the key. I did put some grease on the front of the damper and in the seal. That's going to help it go through the seal without damaging the seal in the front of the timing cover. I just tap this on with a dead blow hammer.
What
The
noise?
misophonia.
What
The
noise?
misophonia.
I don't hear anything.
The misophonia. Misophonia.
There's something wrong with you, Mark.
I
don't know what it is.
Misophonia.
There's something wrong with you.
Well, I got it.
Yeah, what do you got?
So if you get to the point where you can get a bolt started in it, you can put your bolt in and draw it down with a power tool. So what you do is you want to watch this balancer as it goes in, and when it stops, rattle it just a little bit, and then don't power it anymore after that. So you watch it go down. Just like that. So we have our harmonic balancer or damper installed. I'm going to roll this backwards till our indicator is on 0. Somewhere in there. All right, we got our damper on. Went perfectly. Now we're going to put on a water pump. I've already got some right stuff on the back of the gaskets here. Water pump Bolts on to these 6 bolt holes here. Water goes in and out of these holes through the water pump into the radiator. So these are all the water passages into the block and the heads from the water pump.
Now, Mark, does that meet with your approval? Mark? Mark?
Hey, Doc, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Well, how can I help?
Three short bolts. 1, 2, 3. And we have a long bolt. It's got some sealer on the threads, some orange sealer. Crisscross tighten it. Here's our oil pump.
Remember when you told me in one of our recent meetings that if I had that urge to punch somebody in the throat or steer into oncoming traffic, that the best thing I could do is reach out and call you?
I don't think I quite worded it like that.
Well, I told you those were the things that I was going to... But anyway, this is me calling you, okay? So today you're saving a life.
All right. Well, how can I help?
We have our spark plug wire holders that go on the front here. So we have 2 more spark plug wire separators. These bolt to the exhaust manifold bolts on both heads on the front of the engine. These hold the 4 wires on either side of the engine that run around to the spark plugs. They keep the wires from getting up against the exhaust manifolds in the head so they don't get burned. Now remember that we have a heat shield that goes around here.
I've got a lot of things going on right now that I've talked to you a little bit about, but I'm trying to get through a bit with Cousin Dougie right now. We're actually filming a live episode right now. I just had to sneak away to make sure. I'm having a hard time in my brain getting to that happy place that you had talked about before, that, you know, when things are getting bad and things are stressful, you kind of take yourself out of the situation, paraphrasing, of course, and go to a happy place. I can't think anything happy.
Make sure you can still get a spark plug in between this heat shield right here. Might have to adjust it a little bit. And there's our barrel bolt back here in the back. This one here's giving me a little bit of trouble. There we go. Okay. There's our driver's side exhaust manifold. Passenger side gets 2 long barrel bolts. These are open on the end, we don't know why. But anyway, 2 long barrel bolts go in these holes, and they're what holds the manifold in place through here.
Okay, now I want you to try something for me. Next time you get stressed out, imagine that you're driving your old Charger around town, listening to your favorite music. I mean, really feel it.
A Charger. Can I listen to the Stones?
Yeah, sure, anything you want.
Can I get it on? That's a term we used to use back in the old days. It meant to accelerate the car real fast. Like, hey, let's get it on. And it meant punch the gas, smoke them. Can I do that?
Damn straight.
I like your style, Melfi. I like your style.
Nope.
Still to come. Wrapping up the assembly, Dougie installs the exhaust manifolds on the 440.
Got to feed this on here carefully.
But will Dougie's engine build run successfully without intervention from Mark?
Here we go.
Or will Mark have yet another incident to discuss in session?
Does that look like I'm crying?
Find out when Graveyard Carz returns.
I want to show you something that's kind of relevant right now. I'll have to get back on set here in just a couple minutes, by the way. Got things to do.
Oh, okay.
See that? That's the front page of the local newspaper, the Eugene Register Guard. I made that. I made that.
Yeah, I see that. What's the date on that?
That's not really the point, is it? I'll put it down if it bothers you. It's fine. Does that look like I'm crying? Because I'm not. That's acting. That's what I do every day, okay?
This is the heat riser valve in the right-hand exhaust manifold. What this does, it stays closed while the engine's cold, and when the engine warms up, this opens and allows the exhaust gas out, but until it opens, the exhaust gas goes through the intake manifold and heats the intake manifold.
You ever see Rocky, the original movie, 1978, Talia Shire and Sylvester Stallone?
Yes.
You have seen that.
Yes, I have.
If you don't mind, kind of my time, right? Remember when Rocky walked little Mary home because she was out smoking cigarettes and hanging out on the corner with those guys drinking and smoking cigarettes, and Rocky walked her home, which is a very nice thing, by the way.
Okay.
He was trying to give her life lessons, you know, you don't want to hang out with those coconuts, you know, you're going to get a bad reputation. What kind of reputation? Okay, I'm going to use a bad word right here. Whoa. You know, when he uses that word you don't like. And then he says, yeah, thanks, Rock, appreciate it. And then Rocky, hey, anytime. He turns around, starts to walk away, and she says, hey, Rocco. Hey, yeah, yo, little Marie, what do you need, little Marie? Screw you, creepo. She hangs him the bird. That was great.
Is there a connection to this in your real life?
Everybody flips me the bird.
Got to feed this on here carefully over that spark plug wire shield. There we go. And put our barrel bolts in place here.
Okay, Dr. Melfi.
Nope, I am definitely not Dr. Melfi in this scenario.
Oh, hey, I have a question for you. When I do this here, does that look like Columbo? Excuse me, ma'am. I'm working on a new impression, Columbo.
I'm not quite sure how to respond to that.
Put a little bit of lubricant on here, oil, grease, whatever. So, oil filter, got a rubber seal. Threads on to the oil pump, right here. Spin on. Spin it on. Okay. So now we have our oil filter, and we'll cut right here.
Okay, so lessons here in this is take a breath, pretend I'm in my car in a happy place.
Exactly.
Stones, 8-track, get it on. I like it. Just curious too, only because you mentioned it. Would you be cool if in this imagination thing you were driving with me in it?
I don't think
It's
that's
imagination,
quite
it's imagination.
Well, then maybe you should keep that to yourself.
Point taken. Every time I drink this coffee on camera, I make $500. Ka-ching! Gotta go.
So this being the passenger side with all of the wire holders, these are the number 8 spark plug wire tabs. The number 8 wire comes from the distributor, lays in these 2 little brackets, and runs down through that little bracket that I just installed on the exhaust manifold. The other wires that go to the alternator lay in these little tabs here. They get folded down after the wire's in place.
Oh, well, Mark, nice to have you back. Where'd you go?
Had a call to make, my friend. Had to order some parts. Looks like you're doing good, and everything I can see so far is back to the action.
Action. Yeah. Yeah, moving right along.
So after that, we fold them down, and it's all good to go after paint. But these are temporary valve covers I'm going to use. We're going to put on brand new AMD valve covers. after we test this engine on the run stand. So, unique about a Chrysler, it uses exhaust studs on the 4 outside corners of the heads.
Did you just say that the valve covers use exhaust studs?
No, why would I do that? They're a different size stud.
Okay.
So you put a nut on that stud and 4 bolts. Here's one of the little nuts with a washer, captive washer, holds the front corner on a little tiny 1/4 inch fine threaded stud. And then you got 4 bolts down behind the exhaust manifold. Then we have a captive washer nut that goes on the rear stud on the valve cover. 2 more bolts. So we have 4 bolts, 2 studs with nuts holding the valve covers on. 383, 440, and all the other RB engines use 4 bolts, 2 studs.
Actually here, folks, it's the same on the B engines, the 361, 383, 400, 440, 426 wedge. They all use the same valve cover. Just want to point that out for those of you at home.
Well, that's what I said.
No, it isn't.
Well, that's exactly what I said.
Here's our driver's side valve cover. Got the PCV breather in it, which gets painted on a 70. So, and the next time you see this engine, it's going to be on the run stand running.
What's wrong with your ears? What are you doing?
Oof. I saw this in a movie.
Is this something to do with your cyclotron or whatever that disease you have is?
Yeah, cyclotron.
Okay, so I think I'm ready to go. I've checked all the fluids. I've got the distributor in. I believe it's in correctly this time. I've got my intake on the right direction. We have fuel. We have ignition. Let's try some fire. I'm gonna crank it a little bit and see how she sounds. Give her a little fuel. Here we go. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Hey, this sounds good. This sounds really good. 80 pounds oil pressure. That is great. Sounds good. Okay, so I'm gonna let this run for about 15 minutes to break in the camshaft, and then I'm gonna shift this over to Will for paint.
Okay, folks, so there you have it. That engine ran great. Little smoke off the valve cover, that's normal. Sounds great, sounds strong, no engine noises or anything like that. What are you doing, Mark? I don't know what's wrong with him.
Left turn.
Oh, man. Anyway, the engine ran great, so now I can get on to building out the rest of this drivetrain. Enough of this guy. Thanks for watching.
Cut.